Well, I am so pleased to be here. This is a wonderful community of runners, and running centers have done a wonderful job in bringing this together. And thank you, Ralph, for facilitating this process. I am here to help you. So my main mission now is to make running, walking, whatever it is that you're primarily interested in, to be the most fun aspect of any day that you do it. But first, let me tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from, because some of the facts may surprise you. I have been running now for 63 years, and I've actually been coaching for 51 years. I must tell you a little true confessions that when I started running 63 years ago as a very overweight 13-year-old that hated any form of exercise because he was totally out of shape, I had no idea that I would ever get into doing any regular running whatsoever. But because of a school requirement that boys had to go out for athletics after school, I fell in with a group of kids that were runners. They were funny, and the rest is history. I just enjoyed the opportunity to be out there with them. So currently, when I started coaching, it was as a result of opening the very first running specialty store in the United States. It's called Fidipides in 1973. And it was really premature as a business opportunity, I have to admit. So I had to keep the doors open, which is also true today. I went out to do clinics in the community, to put on wonderful retreats in places like Carmel, California, and Lake Tahoe. I also had training groups that started out of my store in 1973. And now we have 50 different cities where these are taking place. But the reason that I really was passionate about this is that I knew that running and endurance walking changes people's lives for the better. And I wanted to invite others in, or keep those running and walking who were already doing it, so that they could hopefully keep doing it until they're 100 years old. And that is my open mission for you today. If you have any questions, you can use the email function there, and I will have certain pauses.
Well, that would be the Slido function. That's the Slido thing.
Yes. So I will have several periods where I'll take a little break for questions. Now my program has been based upon the feedback of over 500,000 runners that I gave advice to, and they got back to me. They told me how the advice worked. So over the last 51 years that I've been coaching, I have fine-tuned the training program based on that. And I'll tell you what I have come up with. But on any given area, we have a series of cognitive tools that allow you to gain control over aches and pains, over your goals, over how you feel on every single run, and oftentimes your success. But by using these cognitive tools, you will be able to activate your human brain that overrides the ancient brain. The ancient brain is the one that we get into trouble with when we use it in running. And most runners actually use their ancient brain, their monkey brain, when they run. And as the stress builds up during a run, what happens is the ancient brain starts secreting negative hormones. This is why you can go from feeling really motivated at the beginning of a run to feeling so-so at mile number 2 or 3, and then by mile number 5, you want to quit. By simple use of some of these tools, you'll activate the human brain that overrides the ancient brain, and it stops the flow of those negative hormones. Currently, I run and walk for an average of over 20,000 steps a day. When it is possible, My wife and I run a marathon every month. I've now done 236 marathons, and I've been injury-free for 43 years. So here are the benefits of the Galloway method. First of all, you have control over motivation, over injury risk, over fatigue, and you also can run faster times, believe it or not. It's even as people get older, once they shift to some of my methods like run, walk, run, there's a performance benefit that comes on. So yes, it is possible to manage or eliminate aches, pains, and injuries. Endurance exercise delivers a certain quality of life at any age. You have an enhanced cardiovascular system, enhanced bone structure. You will maintain physiological benefits year after year at a high level. The message is that life can be enjoyed past 100 years at a high quality level with endurance fitness. And the other thing that is important for people is that there are many positive brain benefits that occur when people do endurance exercise, particularly running. You turn on circuits in the brain for a better attitude, for more vitality, and for personal empowerment. And for those who are experiencing a little brain fog, distance running particularly will stimulate the new growth of brain cells, hundreds of thousands of new brain cells every week if you run more than half an hour, 3 days a week. So you've got a lot to look forward to, and you're going to be more mentally sharp than people your age. It's amazing how sharp the 80 and 85 and 90-year-olds that run are compared with the average people their age. Okay, so the summary is that endurance running or walking keeps everything working at a high level: body, mind, and spirit. So the way that you activate your human brain so that you will stay in control over this is to have cognitive tools that you use whenever you embark upon any given task. But particularly since this clinic is on running and endurance walking, focusing on what you're doing. The reference for this section is my book, Mental Training, and we have all of my books. I now have written 32 books, and they can be purchased, autographed at jeffgalloway.com. Now, the key ingredients in training, whether you're doing endurance walking or running, is 3 days a week first. You need to have regular exercise to maintain the adaptations that you work so hard to produce. Having a balance of running and walking can deliver all of the benefits without breaking down. Another way of putting that, the main cause of injury is running nonstop for too long for the individual. And the main cause in people hitting the wall in endurance events is that they ran nonstop for too long. What Run, Walk, Run does is allow you adequate recovery between workouts so that the individual can repair any damage and can allow the muscles to rebound so that they're ready to go for the next run. Now, if there is aggravation, there are adjustments, and I'll tell you about how Run, Walk, Run is used for that. Here's how the body adapts to training at any age, whether you're an endurance walker, a fun runner, or a runner who wants to improve their time. Basically, our ancestors designed us to adapt and learn from our experience. We evolved to be long-distance walkers, according to the anthropologists. It's believed by anthropologists that our ancestors regularly covered 5,000 to 10,000 miles every 18 months. When we run and walk for long distances, dozens of key body systems are activated to keep adapting so that your feet, your legs, and the tendons and the mitochondria inside the muscle cells, all these things are adapting to make you better, or at least maintain what you've got. The reference here is Galloway's book on running. The third edition just came out. I'm very proud of that. Galloway's book on running has been the long-term bestseller among training books, but the last 15 years, there have been a lot of new things that I developed that weren't in the existing edition. So I went through the last 2 years and put those new things in there. And I'm very proud of the third edition. And again, if you'd like an autographed copy, just go to jeffgalloway.com at the e-store. The improvement formula is to start at your current fitness level, to gradually increase, and have recovery between the key workouts for rebuilding. And, you know, recovery is as important as the hard training, because it's actually during the recovery period that your body repairs and makes the adaptations to improve you. On the other side of that, if you don't have the period for that repair, then you can move into injury. And recovery doesn't mean completely a day off from no exercise. You don't have to lie on the couch and eat bonbons, in other words, to recover. You can walk and oftentimes do some cross training, and some, particularly elite athletes, can run slowly on their days, on their off days, their off hard days, and have no problem with that. So the body is programmed to improve when you push a little bit beyond what your current level of activity was, and the body is programmed to heal itself when there is slight damage. And a slight aggravation to key orthopedic units actually stimulates rebuilding stronger and making you more efficient. And here's an example. Tightness from distance running actually has been shown to reduce injury risk. And so one of my guidelines for staying injury-free is to avoid stretching. I'll get into that a little bit later, but stretching has never been shown to have any benefit in any studies to distance runners, and it has also been shown to cause injuries, in sad cases, career-ending injuries from stretching. So I'm going to absolve you, my children, from all guilt for not stretching before, after, or during a run. Okay, one more little section here, and then we're going to open it up to any questions for this section. Regular workouts in the key areas help you improve endurance, speed, if you want speed, running form, mental training, and all of that according to your own personal goals. The workouts are set up to gradually increase toward what your goal is, pushing ahead a little bit, followed by recovery and rebuilding. So the summary for this is that recovery is as important as the improvement workout. A recovery doesn't necessarily mean total rest. And the best method to avoid injury is to use my run, walk, run method, which I will be talking about. Finally, I will also be talking about the magic mile in just a couple of minutes. And that allows you to set a realistic pace. It's a cognitive tool that keeps you in control over your goals and what a realistic pace would be for long runs and your other workouts. So I'm going to have a brief pause here. So let me know, Ralph or Susan.
Yeah, so
questions are.
So we do have a number of questions queued up in the Slido, and for those who are not on it, or if you are on the Slido, you can actually give thumbs up on other people's questions. And so the one that's risen to the top of the list is, how much of our exercise time should we devote to strength training as we age? So that would be the first question for you, Jeff. You can probably see them on the screen there now.
strength training is an individual issue. There is one area of strength training that I think is very important as we become more mature, and that is strengthening the postural muscles so that you not only will stay more upright when you're running, but just in life itself. And I actually have one exercise that has been extremely beneficial for my clients. It's called arm running, in which you are very slowly bringing up a handheld weight to about eye level from waist level, and then you hold it for 6 seconds, and then you very gradually bring it back down center line to your waist area. And you only need 2 or 3 of these reps with each hand to strengthen those in the upright position. It's a very effective exercise. But other than that, strength training has generally not been shown to be of benefit for distance running if you do strengthen the legs. And as you get older, you can actually wear out the leg muscles if you work them too hard in strength training. But there are a lot of individual issues where people find that they need some extra strength in various parts of their body. And so that should be prescribed by somebody who knows, how to help you with that. But generally speaking, there's not a lot of strength exercise across the board for distance running.
One of the, I'll chime in on the back of that. One of the previous Zoom open hours we did was with the pain-free method, which deals exactly with in fact, is that website's Postural Solutions. That was very well received. Zoom open hour we did, I think it was last October, or no, it was early in January. And that's on our website. So I think the replay's up on that on the website. So, which by the way, the replay was one of the questions that's down here. We will get a replay of this up, and when we do have that replay ready to go, we'll send out an email so everybody can get a copy of it. We have some regulatory issues we have to deal with anytime we put something on our website for the public, but we will endeavor to get that one out and up as soon as possible. So Jeff, the next question is, that was the next question. I answered that one. Should we be using gels in training? I've read that taking gels during training, replenishing glycogen, the body isn't learning to burn fat effectively. Can you address that?
That's absolutely not true. It really doesn't have any connection whatsoever. There's a whole lot of really bad information on the internet, I'm sad to say. Here is the deal with taking sugar products during runs, and I'm talking about long runs. Any run that is at least 90 minutes, it's beneficial to keep your blood sugar level propped up, but you don't need much blood sugar to do that. But the process of blood sugar is based on the fact of replenishing blood sugar is that you will use some of it up when you run or walk long distances, and your brain's only fuel supply is blood glucose. So you're actually messing with your brain, and that's why you can really have some mental fog at the end of long runs if you aren't propping up your blood sugar level well enough. And once the blood sugar level starts going down, your brain starts shutting things down and causing cramps and causing more things to hurt, making you feel absolutely miserable with negative hormones. You can really manage this by using my rule of thumb on blood sugar and water replenishment during long runs. And my rule of thumb on that is every 2 miles, ingest 2 to 4 ounces of water, and also ingest 30 to 40 calories of sugar. And so the 30 to 40 calories is not very much every 2 miles, but it has been enough for most people to keep the blood sugar level up there. But you do need to do that every 2 miles. Unfortunately, with gels and goos, there is a high amount of nausea with those because they have a whole lot of products in there other than sugar. And those things are hard to digest and cause nausea. And I have a no puking rule in my coaching. So I'm against the nausea producers there. But if you do keep your blood sugar level up there, you're going to feel more motivated. You're going to be able to keep away from those negative hormones towards the end, if to avoid that blood sugar crash that could occur. Got another question, Ralph?
Yeah, so the next question, can you please talk about proper form when running hills? I have a tendency to go onto my toes uphill.
Yeah, well, let me just talk about running form in general. The principles of good running form, as evidenced by the research over the last 75 years, are upright body posture, feet low to the ground, and a light touch of the foot, and manage the stride so that you're not overstriding. Now, when going uphill, the other caveat is to shorten your stride as you go up the hill. It's generally not a good idea to lean too far forward because you will reduce your ankle's ability to do workload towards the top. And then when you go down the hill, you want to keep your feet low to the ground. You want to have a light touch of the foot, and you don't want to let the stride get too long. It certainly can be longer than going up the hill, but if you let that stride length get too long, you'll pound your feet, you'll overextend your hamstrings, and you can really cause muscle pulls and aches and pains from that. So be careful with that.
Great. Another question. Hi, Jeff. Anonymous. Hi, Jeff. During the walking part of the workout, should we walk at a brisk pace or leisurely pace?
You know, I'm going to get right into run, walk, run in just a minute or so when we get through with these questions. But the walking pace first needs to allow you to recover from the run segment. So that's the first mission. And then the second mission is whether you're in a race or a training run. The one no-no with walking is you don't want to have too long a stride length because that can cause injuries. So you want to keep your stride length very gentle. And if you want to pick up the pace of your walk, you can do cadence drills for walking, just as I recommend, and I'll mention this, cadence drills for running. And there are two drills that you'll find on my website that help people improve their form. One of them is the cadence drill, and the other one is called the acceleration glider, which teaches you how to transition seamlessly from a walk to a run and then seamlessly back into another walk over and over again.
Let's see. So the next question is, you talked about the 30 to 40 calories every 2 miles. How would you recommend we get that?
The forms of simple sugar have been easier to digest and get into the system quicker so that the brain gets its fuel quicker. And what I'm talking about is sugar cubes, gummy bears, lifesavers, or you can do what I use, and that is Defizz Coca-Cola, which, by the way, is used by a lot of world-class athletes. I started using it when I was at the world-class level back in the 70s, and Defizz Coke is still used by a lot of world-class runners because it's sugar water and it has the added benefit of having some caffeine in there too. But if you're going to use, whatever you're going to use in a race, you want to try it out many times on long runs before you choose to use it in a race.
Yeah, I've been a Gatorade guy for so long that going back to Coke would be killer. But anyway, I guess
this is a good lesson actually, because electrolytes are also very hard to digest during a long run, and they do cause a lot of nausea. And the electrolytes that are in sports drink can't be digested, metabolized, and then be used during that long run or race. So they're really of no benefit. They may help you in recovery, but drinking electrolytes after the run would do the same thing. So just realize that if you are having nausea issues, it could be the electrolyte beverages.
Oh, it's good to know. I'd never heard. So I appreciate that. benefits to stretching with other types of workouts? Is there benefits to stretching with other types of workouts?
The only people that I see benefiting are individual issues, mostly people that had some type of specific injury in car accident, football, skiing, and they had to work around those things. But stretching is used by the ballistic sports of football, sprinting, basketball, because those sports you're asking your body to do what it wasn't designed to do. And so clearly stretching can help you in those sports, but there's also a risk of injury in those sports too. But there's some benefit to be accomplished there. In distance running, there's no benefit from the stretching for most people, and there's a high amount of risk. So there it is.
We got two more questions, and then we'll take it back to your plan conversations. This one I think you've kind of already addressed is what are some suggestions of such things to eat, snack on every 2 miles? I think you've kind of already addressed that one, so we'll buzz through that one.
Sugar cubes, gummy bears, lifesavers, defizzed cola. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about getting back to running if you switch to cycling because your knees hurt so bad?
Well, first of all, I have brought a lot of people back from that type of situation who had switched to other sports or who'd simply dropped out of running because they were getting knee pain when they ran. That is most commonly caused by running too far nonstop. So listen to my run, walk, run section that's about to start right now. Okay,
sounds good. Rose, we want to go back to the live screen. We'll pick up this last question, and any new questions. Jeff's got some time set aside for another Q&A session later on, so we'll get back to that and to those questions. Otherwise, we'll never hear the rest of his presentation.
Absolutely, and I'm so pleased that we have so many questions. And I'm going to give you a bonus for being here today. You can ask me questions via email. My direct email address is jfg@jeffgalloway.com, and I'd be glad to help you with any lingering questions that I haven't answered during this presentation. So anyway, the best method to avoid injuries that I've found in my 51 years of coaching, 63 years of running, is the run, walk, run method. The bottom line on that is, according to the anthropologists, our ancestors they didn't design us to run nonstop for any distance at all. They used run, walk, run on hunts and in other periods when they had to go a little faster on some of their migrations. But the bottom line is we were not designed, according to the anthropologists, for nonstop running. And when we try to do that, we overload the feet, the legs, the tendons, the ligaments, the muscles, and we cause injuries. So the way that you avoid these is to adjust your run, walk, run strategy so that the running amount is not too long for your pace and what you're doing. And then you have frequent walk breaks to reset the fatigue level, and you also will reset the stress buildup on your weak links. If all of us have weak links, and they're going to get irritated in running if you run too far nonstop. But by breaking the cycle of running a little bit and walking, running a little bit and walking, if you fine tune that, you're going to be able to reduce or eliminate the stress buildup on those weak links and make them manageable. Here is how this works. It's really the recommendations are based on pace per mile. And again, we now have over 500,000 people in our database who had problems with various things in running, and Run, Walk, Run was part of the answer in getting them injury-free. And so the database from that is based on collecting what pace per mile they were running, and then overall, with the volume of people, what was the best run, walk, run strategy by pace per mile. So here they are, folks. And at a 7-minute per mile pace, it's run 6 minutes and walk 30 seconds. At 8 minutes per mile, it's run 4 minutes and walk 30 seconds. At 9 minutes per mile, run 2 minutes and walk 30 seconds. And I say 30 seconds because our studies show very clearly that the maximum length of a walk break for benefit occurs within the first 30 seconds. If you walk longer than that, you actually start slowing down during the second half of your run, and it becomes harder and harder to restart again. Moving forward, at 10 minutes per mile, 90 seconds run and 30 seconds walk. At 11 and 12 minutes per mile, either 60-30 or 45-30, or even 30-30 for 11 and 12 minutes per mile. At 13 and 14 minutes per mile, it's either 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 20 seconds, or 15 and 15. At 15 minutes per mile, it's run 15 seconds and walk 30. And then at 16 minutes per mile, which is the Run Disney Balloon Lady pace, it's run 10 seconds and walk 30. So by trying those out, again, as a trial run, as a rule of thumb, and then trying out 1 day a week, a series of the strategies that are in the pace range that you want to be running in your next race or some particular run that you want to do. And what I recommend is on a Tuesday, you would have some half-mile repetitions running at the race pace that you want to run in your race, goal race at the end of the season. And on each one, doing 4 to 8 of these half miles, you try a different run, walk, run strategy. And by doing 4 to 8 of those every single week, you're going to come up with ones that simply work a whole lot better. And you also become very accomplished at using that strategy that works well. So that's how you can facilitate that during a training program. Now, the Magic Mile. This is a very important part of my program. It's a cognitive tool, and it's really designed to give you a reality check on what paces you should be running. The Magic Mile is a 1-mile time trial. It is run several times throughout a training season to see how your progress is going, and then also to make sure that you're running slow enough on long runs. And then at the end of the season, it can tell you whether you're really ready for that time goal that you wanted to be ready for. And so the Magic Mile then is done by, first of all, warming up and going through the cadence drill and the acceleration glider drill to get the legs ready to run 1 mile at a little faster pace. The Magic Mile, the first Magic Mile of the season, you're not trying to run fast. You just want to get a reference time. And so once you get that reference time on the first one, each successive Magic Mile would have a goal of running faster than you've run before. And almost everybody in our programs, our Galloway programs, finds that they run faster progressively through the season. Now, the data that we have is quite large in being able to predict what your current potential is. And all you have to do that is to go to my website, jeffgalloway.com. It has a free computation function there. So you can plug in your Magic Mile time, and it will tell you what your current potential is in the 5K, 10K, half, and full marathon. And it will tell you what your pace should be no faster than in long runs. And that's really the first thing that we want to do, make sure that we're not running too fast on long runs. Magic Mile can really help do that. And just go to my website and it can really help you through that. But it's a cognitive tool, meaning that you have to interact with this in cognitive steps, which activates your human brain and then gets you away from allowing the ancient brain and the ego to determine what your goal is when you don't have a prayer of being able to run that goal. So the Magic Mile is extremely important, and feel free to use our free computation on our website. But in order to achieve the time goal that is predicted by the Magic Mile, you will have to do all of the training that is in my training programs. The 5K, 10K book, the half marathon book, Galloway's book on running, or year-round plan books. All the schedules are there, and you not only have to do the long runs that get up beyond race distance, but you also have to do some speed work. And for example, in the half marathon, you would do half-mile repetitions on alternate weekends with long runs. So here's how that works. To prepare yourself for your very best performance in a half marathon, you need to get up beyond 13.1 miles in training run. So whatever your starting distance is, it should be just a little bit longer than your current longest run. And you would gradually, every 2 weeks, build up the length of a longer run so that 2 weeks before your half marathon, you were up to 14 miles if you want to finish that half marathon with strength. And if you want a time goal, you can go all the way up to 19 miles to get extra endurance benefit. And the difference between a 14-miler and a 19-miler is 7 additional minutes of time improvement on the average. And the difference between a 10-mile to finish, 10-mile long run, and a 14-mile longest run
Great
2
fine
weeks
stuff.
before is another 7 minutes of time improvement. So there's a lot of time improvement you can achieve just from lengthening the very slow long runs. Now, what you'll see in the Magic Mile computation is that we have found that you really need to slow down the long runs. But the reality is I haven't found any pace that's too slow for long runs. I've actually trained quite a few people, several thousand people, who have only walked the long runs in preparation for a half marathon or marathon. And they got all the endurance of the walk that they would have gotten from the run. So go slow, and you should be running at least 2 minutes per mile slower than you could currently run in a marathon. But the computation function at jeffgalloway.com under Magic Mile will tell you how to do that. And on the long runs, be sure that you're using the right run, walk, run strategy. But again, by default, you can walk as much as you want to, and having a more gentle run, walk, run is going to give you all the endurance without the risks of injury or prolonged fatigue that stays with you in a lingering way for several days or several weeks in some cases. Okay, so any questions right now?
Yeah, we do have a couple of questions. We'll pull them up on the screen, Jeff. We'll start with one's been up here for a while. It was put up just before we went back into presentation, and suggest a healthy breathing techniques. Can you suggest healthy breathing techniques?
Yes, there is a method that's called lower lung breathing. Some call it belly breathing. And that is opposed to the other way of breathing that people get into is shallow upper lung breathing, in which you're panting. The difference is that when you inhale, when you're taking in a breath with lower lung breathing, you want to send that air down lower into the lower lung area. And you may have to practice this a little bit during your runs, particularly during the warm-up of your runs, in order to get the feel of it and to learn that technique. It will come if you're used to shallow breathing. But if you are shallow breathing, you're going to get into oxygen debt sooner in any run, and you won't get the full oxygen utilization that you could if you were lower lung breathing. One technique for lower lung breathing to facilitate it is once you start a run, before you take a breath, blow out very slightly and then inhale. The little extra exhale right before you're taking in a breath helps facilitate the lower lung breathing for most of the people that I've worked with. It also helps to make sure that you are running upright, because if you are leaning forward, you will not be able to have as good a lower lung breath as you would have.
It's kind of interesting, Jeff. I was raised by a choir director, and the exact same rules apply for singing. Is breathe at your belly and maintain upright posture. So if you really want to attract attention, you practice your choral pieces while you're running.
Yes, and actually, there's a lot of good research on that. There are actually some coaches who have had some runners who have experienced difficulties in their breathing, and they actually have prescribed doing some form of singing with the controlled breathing that you're talking about, because it does carry over.
Yep. I mean, it's hard to sing four or 8 bars on one breath while you're running. It's hard enough to do it while you're standing up in a choir thing. But I'm glad to hear that you can confirm that. Absolutely. So the next 2 questions, I think, are really the same question couched differently. When you calculate your pace for a walk run, do you use your pace including the walk or just the running part, or use the magic miles? And the second one basically reiterates the same thing. If I want to run a marathon at, say, 8-minute average pace, would I run faster than that during the run segments, which are offset by the walks? So I think those are both the same question. But can you address that issue of how we calculate how fast are we running when we're doing the run, walk, run?
Well, you have to realize that I have a very simple brain, and that is I reduce things down to a simple concept. And when it comes to your question here of what pace are we talking about, it's what is on the watch at the end of each mile. That's
okay.
it. That's the bottom line. So that is the pace that you would focus on when using the table that I mentioned. For example, at an 8-minute per mile pace, the most popular right now is to run for 4 minutes and walk for 30 seconds. But I will say there are some other options, and this is where you can experiment. The other options are to run for 3 minutes and walk for 20 seconds. And actually, some people run for 2 minutes and walk for 15 seconds.
Okay. I get that. That's helpful. I was the one that put up the question about the 8-minute mile, but so that's good. So we're going to close those out. And do you run, walk during a race, or only during training?
Well, you want to use run, walk, run on long runs too, because if you don't, then it's going to take so much longer for your legs to recover after those long runs. Whereas a real liberal run, walk, run strategy on long runs means that you can recover extremely fast, and yet you'll get all the endurance based on the distance that you covered, which is also true about walking. So if you, for any reason, hit a wall in a long run, then don't quit. Keep walking for the amount that you still need to cover, and you will get all the endurance of that run. All that, the run or the walk.
Great. And this one's, I don't know if it's tongue in cheek or not, but why would I want to run a marathon? Seems abusive to me. I walk 3 miles 3 to 5 days a week, and dance work out between.
Well, you know, the wonderful thing about running and endurance walking is that each person is the captain of their ship, and they decide what they're going to do on a given day, how far they're going to go, how far during the season they're going to go, how fast they're going to go. That's totally up to you. But I will say that I have coached individually approximately 100,000 runners. And what these folks say after the marathon is that as difficult as the training was, I have never had a feeling of exhilaration of any other accomplishment that I have ever done. That is such a common comment. Tens of thousands have told me almost in those exact words. And I think that it has to do with activating certain parts of the brain that are very powerful and kept our ancestors going through those long treks that enabled them to survive. And I'm talking about those brain circuits that unleash those wonderful hormones and those circuits that give you a better attitude, that give you more energy and allow you to be empowered to solve problems. There's nothing like the marathon to do that, but you do have to do the right run, walk, run, and that can keep you from being so beaten up.
I would concur completely. Okay, so we'll go to what advice would you give to someone who wants to keep a vegetarian vegan lifestyle but who wants to run a half marathon?
There's certainly nothing detrimental about a vegan lifestyle and distance running. My roommate in college, and you're talking about the 1960s, before there was a lot of research in nutrition and endurance. I'm not sure there was any research there, but my roommate decided to go vegan during his last 3 years. And all of us on our team at Wesleyan University thought that he was crazy and he was going to run out of energy and he would not have the muscle power to be able to run well. And you have to realize that this guy, my roommate, came in to our university, which did not have any scholarships. They had no athletic scholarships at all. It was really an academic school. But my roommate, his senior year, won the Boston Marathon. The only collegiate athlete in the history of the Boston Marathon, and he did it totally on vegan power. I know a lot of other vegans who are very talented and very accomplished runners, and there have been a number of world record holders that have. So there's nothing wrong with that. But what I'd recommend, though, is to use one of the apps that you can find out there, like MyFitnessPal and some of the others, because they allow you to monitor your intake and see if you're getting the recommended daily allowances of the vitamins, minerals, and the essential amino acids for complete protein. That's very important to monitor that just to make sure.
Good deal. And the last question is, how do I get back to running after pulling a muscle?
You want to avoid any activity that could aggravate the area. And this is true about any injury. Just don't run for at least 5 days and treat the area that is affected. And so I'm going to go a little bit generic here. If it's a pulled muscle, then massage has been the best treatment for that. Sometimes rubbing an ice chunk of ice on it for 15 minutes every night, that can be helpful. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not going to set anything back. You do not want to stretch. You don't want to do any activity that stretches because that'll keep it injured and it won't allow it to heal. In terms of anti-inflammatories, you have to talk to your doctor about that. Sometimes in some pulls and strains and other muscle issues, the recovery can be speeded up with anti-inflammatories, but you need to talk to a doctor about that. But the amount of days off completely for running among the people that I have worked with has usually not been more than 5 days off at the start of an injury. And then you would treat the injury site based on what the problem was. Again, with a muscle situation, massage has really worked best. We have found a Galloway massager that you'll see on our website. It's a vibrating massage tool that invigorates the muscle and also brings blood flow in, that has speeded up the recovery rate quite a bit. And you can also, if you are interested in that Galloway vibration machine, you can get a 15% discount from my website on that. And the code that you would use is JFG 2020. It's still good in 21, but JFG 2020. But massage is best for muscles. If it's an area that's next to the skin, like the Achilles tendon, the ice massage, rubbing a chunk of ice on the Achilles or whatever is hurt for 15 minutes every night. The healing occurs mostly overnight, and so you want to predispose it to the maximum amount of healing before you go to bed. And then for joint issues in the knee, the hip, and other areas, anti-inflammatories have been very effective. But as I said, don't just go out and self-medicate. You really do need to talk to your doctor about anti-inflammatories.
What about these devices that I forget what they're called, but you put the pad on wherever the injury is, and it sends pulses through it to activate the muscles. I want to say STEM, but that's
TEM.
TEMS. That's TEMS. Yeah, TEMS. That's what I'm thinking of. What about them?
Well,
thank you, whoever that was.
They're very specific in what they can do. In other words, there's a small percentage of people that get benefit from that, but they get great benefit from it. And so it's not across the board. It's not anything that I normally say, well, if you've got a muscle problem, then that's what you should do, because it can be quite expensive. And in my experience and reports from the orthopedists that I've worked with, it's effective in about 10%, they tell me, of runners who have muscle issues. So what happens mostly, as the doctors have told me, is that they use that therapy when nothing else has worked, and some of the doctors told me that they're not sure that actually is what did it, because the area was healing progressively over several weeks. But if nothing else is working, give it a try.
Good deal. Jeff, do you have more material to present, or do you have time for more questions?
We are actually into the area now where it is time for questions. So I really do want to.
So I do have some more questions queued up, and we'll bring that back up on the screen here. We're going to start with a question from Jen. It has to do with plantar fasciitis. I'm a low-level runner and have been dealing with it for over 2 years. Could it be due to stretching that entire time?
Oh, it certainly could. If you're stretching, I doubt if it's really going to ever fully heal. And once you stop stretching, it can start healing. So that's really something to do right away. Now, there's not a lot of blood flow in the plantar area, so that vibrating massage tool has actually been shown to help bring some blood flow in there, and it has speeded up a number of cases like yours where it's been around for a long time, and it really got some good traction through the vibrating massage tool. But other than that, the support that you would put in your shoe to make sure that the foot is not going through a lot of torque You want to have a arch support system that really fills in your arch area enough so that your foot is not rolling back and forth. And then there's a prevention, but this exercise also can help speed up the healing in a lot of cases, and that is called the toe squinter exercise. And what you're doing is you're pointing your foot down and you're clenching the muscles in your foot, mostly your forefoot, and those extend back to the heel area where the plantar fascia is located. And I've had quite a few success stories of people that did about 8 or 10 of these toe squinching episodes throughout the day for a month or two, and really got the healing on track by doing that.
So the next question is revolving magnets for healing faster. Nikan makes a palm mag. Do you have any experience with that?
Not at all, and I have asked orthopedists about that, and most of the really folks that I respect just didn't have a clue as to how that would work. But again, there are a lot of things out there that work for individuals, and so if it works for you, then use it. There it is.
So the next question is, what are your thoughts on shoe types? And I think here specifically, you know, I mean, there's the 5-finger deal and flats to everything from low profile to, I guess they go up as high as 12-millimeter heel lift. I trip over them myself, but.
Well, the best advice is to get the best advice. You want to go to the folks at running centers, and if you're in Atlanta, you can go to my stores, Fidipides, people that have people who are trained in shoe fitting and know the nuances of the foot, both in shape and in function. And those talented, trained people will be able to see you walk and then see you run in a neutral shoe, and then start fine-tuning it based on shoes that they think would work better for you. The flat shoes or the minimalist shoes like the 5-finger shoes have a much higher rate of injury, and I think this is mostly because people are using those that have no business using them, and they're not getting support. They're forcing the foot to go through a whole lot more torque, and then it gets damaged. So anyway, but again, get good advice.
What do you wear?
I actually, my son, Weston, worked for ASICS until recently. He quit his dream job to get married and move down and be with his wife and work with his wife. But he designed shoes for ASICS, and he gave me a number of shoes that I'm still using. And they work well for me. But I'm not going to ever tell you that everybody should wear ASICS. That's not the case. There are a whole lot of individual issues, and you need to find the shoes within any brand that not only fit your foot, but match the way your foot operates or functions. And there are basically two types of foot functions, and you're going to see a whole lot of information on this in my Galloway's book on running, 3rd edition, including diagrams and so forth, so you can sort of get an idea, better idea of how your foot's operating. But the two types of operating feet are the rigid foot, which is more of a direct push-off. And the other type of foot function is the floppy foot, which has more mobility and rolls from side to side. Now, that said, there's a fairly high percentage of runners that can use a neutral shoe. But if you're having trouble with a neutral shoe, then you really need to gravitate towards the shoe that is designed for the way your foot operates.
Great, great. We've got a couple more here for you. What's your view on rollers for tight muscles and T-band relief?
Well, the rollers, foam rollers or the stick or things like that, are a form of massage, and it's lingering towards the deep tissue massage where you put pressure on the area. The benefit for it is very limited in that you have to design the rolling action based on what area you're trying to roll junk out of. And you have to be careful that you don't push it too hard, because you can. So in cases where there is damage and you've got some bio junk left there due to an injury, the roller devices can help move the junk out. But they're not going to bring blood flow in, and that's where the massage or the massage tool, like our vibrating massage, can help you.
Okay, we got two more questions in the queue. Can you elaborate on what you said earlier regarding the ancestral monkey brain taking over during a run and how to manage this to combat negative stress?
Okay, good question. Here's how it works. When we start to run, most of us are thinking about something that's been going on at work or in our personal life or whatever. And so we've got the human brain sort of working on that particular personal issue or job issue. And so we will often, at the beginning of a run, defer brain operating system, the ancient brain or monkey brain. And just going out and put one foot in front of the other, the ancient brain is turned on. Now that's the emotional brain. And at first, it's not stressed. But as you get into a run and the stress builds up from fatigue and heat and or other weather factors or whatever, maybe rough terrain or whatever, then as the stress builds up, the ancient brain, if you allow it to be under your control, then it is going to start releasing anxiety hormones so that you feel less motivated. And then if you keep going and there's further stress that builds up, the negative hormones come on and can make you feel absolutely miserable and want to quit. Now, as I said, the antidote to that is having cognitive strategies. You'll see a lot about this in my mental training book. The best first step for most people is to have a series of mantras that you use. Once you say a mantra like, I'm going to overcome this, I feel better, I'm in control here. Any statement like that you say over and over again and think about will activate your human brain, which then overrides the ancient brain, and it stops the flow of the negative hormones. So it puts you in control. But you have to follow up from the mantras into a strategy that can keep you in your human brain. And there are several strategies that you'll see in a lot of my books, in the mental training part of most of my books, and particularly the mental training book itself.
Okay, and one more question. Can you give us your opinion on wearing a CHOPAT or a dual action straps for the knees during runs trainings to recover from knee injuries?
CHOPAT is one of the very specific devices that have helped some runners. There are quite a few of these knee devices out there on the market today. And each one of them that I'm familiar with has a small percentage of people that get benefit from it, but they can get immense benefit if the device, like the CHOPAT, actually works for them. So it is something that I recommend trying when people are having knee pain and they have reduced their run, walk, run, and they've done the other things that could possibly take away, and none of those things have worked. So it's certainly something that you should try. And there are several others that you'll find in stores like Fidipides and running centers that can help lead you away from the pain that you get in the knees.
A couple of things, a couple of housekeeping things. I might have mentioned earlier, if I haven't, we've got a special offer that's going to come out to everybody who's registered for these events with some special discounts at the Running Center and at Galloway Productions. Anybody who's a participant in this event, of course, you're always welcome to give us a call for any of your investment financial planning issues that you have any questions with. We'd love it if you'd follow us on social media. We are doing these events at least once a month. We've got several good ones coming up. We've got one I'm particularly excited about in April on raising financially aware kids with the help of our friends over at American Century Investments. Next week, well, we're going to pop up the list of the upcoming events here on the screen in a second, because I can't remember them all, but here we go. We've got 8,000 days of retirement. That is with the MIT Age Lab. We got MIT. You're all familiar with Massachusetts Institute of Technology. We've got their Age Labs doing a piece on the 8,000 days of retirement. For your information, that's 22 years roughly, and that's the average length of a retirement. 2 weeks later, impact investing through the lens of faith. And we've got more coming up. You can check out our web page, the events page on our website. So that being said, Jeff, thank you so much. I'll see you in a couple hours for our evening session. Thank you so much for joining us and making this doable. Thank you, Running Center, for helping organize this and for your promotion. It's been phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
And I want to thank you also, Jeff. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
All right. Well, we'll see you pretty soon, Ralph and Jeff.
Absolutely.
I'll go have some
Take
dinner
care,
and
guys.
see you back. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.